You didn't just say, hey, following up. You said, oh, how's so-and-so's dog? You had a conversation with one of my coworkers prior, but now I was the decision maker on the project, and it wasn't promotional. It was just super conversational, super human. And the way you wrote it, I felt you actually cared. And then you did a third thing. Outreach has gotten so bad, and I'm blaming it on AI as being the biggest reason why. People are sliding into my LinkedIn DMs trying to sell me something when it's clear that they didn't even look at my profile. Because if they had, it would have been obvious that I am not even close to being a candidate for what they are trying to sell me. Spray and pray is absolutely not the way. I'm a hard sell when it comes to cold outreach and marketing sales in general. When someone, however, does do this right, I do a double take. And my guest today is worth celebrating for this. What he did to capture my attention has helped him close approximately $9 million in business over the past 10 years through email and LinkedIn outreach. And today, he's breaking down his strategy. He spent over a decade studying the science of outreach across brands you maybe have heard of: Pandora, SiriusXM, Yelp, and now Jamp. He uses AI every single day, but not in the ways that many sales processes have gravitated toward. Listen on for insights into why AI is making outreach worse, what's actually happening in buyers' inboxes, the Wesleyfied Framework, and how our guest Wesley uses AI to research, then make every message human before he hits send. And 3, the long game, how the reps that are closing the most deals think in relationships and timelines, not transactions. So, Wesley Wilcox, it is my absolute joy and pleasure to welcome you to Humanized.
So happy to be here. Thank you so much. Who would have ever thought just doing an email outreach or a LinkedIn outreach for the two of us to potentially have a meeting together, for us to sit down and have a podcasting about that and obviously the space of it. So thank you very much for the invitation to come on.
Well, you definitely stood out in my mind. Tell me a little bit more about who you are. Your path to sales is not a straight line.
No, it's not. My student loan debt certainly would agree. So I would like to always joke with family and friends, especially my wife, about kind of being in the millennial generation of, being really obsessed with ESPN and Sports Center and Stuart Scott, College Game Day, like all those guys. Like I went to college to try to be in the sports journalism field, which obviously led me down the track of kind of going to Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida, to be a communications major. It was one of those things that spent all of my time in college doing the best I could to kind of make myself as experienced as I could as a young professional. Was the main sports broadcaster at our AM/FM radio station, our Division II NCAA college. I was our broadcaster for my senior year at Flagler College, doing all of our major sports that we had across men's soccer, volleyball, so on and so forth. But when I graduated college, I've had a lot of family that have been in product sales, recruitment sales, things like that, and just seemed like this was just the path that I was supposed to go on.
Great. So you're currently in ad tech, and that is a very crowded market. I mean, tech in general is pretty crowded. There's a lot of people competing for the same buyer's attention in this space.
Yeah.
And this is just so relatable for so many different industries. So I'm curious what actually is happening in people's inboxes right now in and outside of ad tech.
Yeah, it's hard. I think getting back from going to MAU Vegas a couple weeks ago, getting to sit down and talk to growth marketers, performance marketers, demand generation marketers as well in the mobile UA, CTV UA space. When you get to talk to these people, I think the craziest part about being in our space, Marisa, is that there's so many people whose products are so similar. And yet at the same time, it's like everybody's has that one little twist that allows it to kind of not be the same company. It goes back to kind of the beginning of setting the stage for what got me into sales. I think being 32 and going into my second decade in this line of work, I think as I head into that second chapter, I've noticed that relationships have never been more important. I think that when I was stubborn and I was naive and I was 22, 23, 24 years old, I was like, they're buying it for the product. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something to that. But I think relationship building has been so crucial in the last couple of years, especially coming out of the pandemic. So I think it's a mixture. I think as you go into your career deeper and deeper, I think if you play it the right ways, we'll go into a lot of the questions and combos we'll have today. When you go to these new companies, how you kind of like in a crowded marketplace where you have a portfolio of client relationships that you've held so close and dear to the chest for years that allow you to get up, get comfortable, work through those cobwebs with those clients to try to figure out the product you're doing and work through that in real time, but also learn from that. I think that's been the most beneficial part is that when you have these discovery calls with clients of your past career, your past jobs you've had, you get to go into and learn from those so that your prospecting reflects that. You learn from the real market of what these people think is feedback for the product you're doing, but then allows that to be kind of on pen on paper, thought on paper to be able to say that in your in mails and obviously leveraging AI. That's kind of been a big benefit to that as well.
Okay. So maybe the answer here is actually this is what's not happening in people's inboxes right now and the opportunity that there is available.
For sure.
Before you write a single word of cold outreach or warm outreach, even, I know that you ask AI 3 specific questions. Walk me through that process and what you dubbed the Wesleyfied framework.
The funniest part about AI is I spent so long being so reluctant to use it. It was one of those things that once it finally was pressured into like you need to start using it, I think everybody I've talked to, colleagues and both friends of mine that also use it at different companies, they all use it in their own way. I mean, how I typically started out is that the ways of old, like kind of pre AI versus now AI environment that we're in, is that you had to do all of this. You had to Google the brand, you had to see the latest news that was out, and now it can do that for you. So, my first step is I always try to gauge the first question I ask, the chat search or whatever I'm using, if it's Claude. Give me an understanding of who the brand is and ways that we should be partnering with them or a problem that we solve. That allows me to start at the top and already get an understanding to allow my brain to process, okay, this is what we think is the partnership opportunity. Now let's dig deeper. Then it gets into what are some of the media mixes or some of the channels that they're using and what are ways that we can partner with them. I try to walk the AI back into instead of just asking straight up, like help me send an email to this person. Are they? How can we work with them? What are problems that we solve? And then once I get to the bottom of that, it helps me curate an email that would have been a whole heck of a lot more customized at the bottom of that than it would have been to just do a blind, hey, help me type this email.
You're doing the actual research that we would have done as if AI didn't even exist, but you're having AI do it instead of you spending all the time doing it yourself. I know,
100%.
I know you have a third part of that, and it has to do with performance. What's the third part of your framework?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more crucial now than ever. I mean, to kind of get an understanding of what somebody's performance metrics are for their marketing. Like, I've long tested the theory of is brand lift dead? Is brand awareness dead? I think it depends on who you ask. I think the large brands that out there that have $1 billion marketing budgets, I think they can afford it. Like watching the World Cup right now, my wife and I have been having a blast, being like, okay, that signage on the field, like what are you doing? How are you measuring that? But I also try to work it in of learning about attribution methodologies. If these brands are spending more money on iOS or they're focusing on Android, or they focus on different types of media mix modeling, like those types of things just allow me to jump past kind of the discovery call. So that way, if a meeting does get scheduled and it piques the interest of the marketer, we're already digging into a second, third type meeting where we've cut through the handshaking, getting to know each other, and we're getting into the actually, how can I help?
So, and this is where I think you sold me too on your
Yeah.
initial cold outreach. You really understand your target audience, and your target audience is marketers. You said something that really caught me. I was like, oh, that's an actual problem that I need to
Hmm.
solve. And I was fairly new at the company. You'd reach out to me at that time, and it wasn't a
Hmm.
priority, but you and I stayed in touch. And then you sent a follow up email, and the follow up email was really different and clever than what a traditional sales rep would do. You didn't just say, hey, following up. You said, oh, how's so and so's dog? So
Hmm.
you had a conversation with one of my coworkers prior, but now I was the decision maker on the project. And it wasn't promotional, it was just super conversational, super human. And the way you wrote it, I felt was really, you weren't trying to make a hard sell. You actually cared. And that resonated with me. It's nice when someone is actually reaching out to us in a human way. And
Hmm.
then you did a third thing. Weeks later, when I still didn't bite, you were like, hey, I'm going to be in New York City. and I got Rangers tickets. Do you want to go? At that time, I still could not sign up for what you were selling me, but I was like, okay, why not? And I know because you and I had chat when we prepped for this podcast, and you said to me, I wasn't even going to try to sell you because we didn't end up going to the Rangers game. I had gotten sick. But you had said I wasn't even going to try to sell you at the Rangers game. I was just going to try to get to know you. And I said to you, oh, I actually did want to know more about what we were selling. I just had no time up to that point. So that was third thing. You're looping me in. You're keeping it human. And now you're inviting me to something that's really cool that I think most people who anywhere, especially in New York, New Jersey, would want to go to a Rangers game. And then you're going to have my attention. You're going to have my cell phone number.
I think to your point, at the end of the day, the biggest, largest, greatest compliment I can ever get from anybody is that they didn't feel like they were sold. I understand that that's the profession that I'm in, but at the end of the day, life's too short to treat people like that. Everybody has their life outside of work. Everybody has their own stuff that they have going on. I think now more than ever, for somebody to give you their time of day to even go to an outing with you or a dinner, that is like absolute sacred ground. So no, I mean it was more than my pleasure to do it, and I really did mean it. When somebody gives you their time to do something like that, you don't want that person to then leave that time that they were so gracious to give you, being like, man, that guy just sold the hell out of me for the last 3 hours, and what a mistake that was. Life's too short to do that to people. In a crowded marketplace, it's this hypothetical funnel that I keep talking about, where if you're reaching out to somebody you've never met, cold outreach, you're in the 100th percentile in terms of there are so many other offerings and people that are reaching out to these people. And it's all about shrinking down that funnel to become more and more lower in that percentile. So if somebody gives you their time in their personal life outside of work hours to go do something, you treat that accordingly and you let the people know you're going to be very kindful and you're going to be very mindful of their time and have a great time. And we can talk about work another time. And that's my job, to build the relationship from there.
Yeah, no, I love that. And like even just talking to you now and prior, like I feel like you just have this aura about you where you genuinely do care. And I think
hmm
people feel that. I know your job is not easy. Have numbers, but really going into it, what does this person really need? Who is this person as a human being? I think really is one of the reasons why you've been so successful in sales.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Marisa.
Of course. Okay, so moving on to the next question, we have a high level of what your framework looks like for those who
Sure.
want to try to copy it. Once you get the answers from AI, from your framework, how do you end up deciding what to actually put into the message and what to cut without giving away all of your secrets? Because you still got to have some confidentiality around here.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I know we laughingly coined the term Wesleyfied, but I think when you go into these situations where AI is a tool of saving time, I think that's the way to use it. But when an email goes out, I think what's been funny is I've A/B tested for the last probably 12 months, where I've had clients that have been like, man, that email really solved my problem. And then I had to sit there and be like, that was AI. But like, you don't want to tell somebody that. And then when you get an email to be done and you've typed through your sequences to get it to where you want it to be, and then you copy and paste style into your Gmail that you're about to send the email, or Yahoo, whatever somebody uses, at the end of the day, there needs to be some type of touch. It basically, Gemini or Google is telling you that you need to change the grammar. Keep it, because that means that you're basically going to keep your talk track as if it's yourself. You don't want in a crowded marketplace for an email to come through as if it's robotic. I just feel like anybody can see that. I think that that's the toughest part. So it's a balance between getting the data, getting the storytelling that you need from the AI that you're helping to try craft to those to that marketer. But at the same time, I've always used my introduction sentence to every email as like, that is me. That is me, always going to be me, but the body of the email and why you should care, sure, I'll work within the confines of like my AI tools. Because at the end of the day, it's probably going to be able to help me be a little bit more articulate with what I want to get across.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And there's so many people are just AI can replace staff. AI is doing all the things. When you and I are preparing for this podcast, we need to take a step back. AI is
hmm
doing a lot of great things, but to think that you're just going to have it do all of this automation without properly training it and
Yeah,
without properly putting the human touch to it is really going to backfire on you. Let's take a step back here. What did we do before AI? How were we communicating? What got the wins then?
for sure.
That brings me to part three that I want to discuss, and that is a
Sure.
long. Now, me being a marketer and also you being in sales, we know that we have aggressive sales quotas.
Mhm.
I typically am held to end of month. C-suite doesn't always want to hear it's the long game. But the truth
Sure.
of the matter is it really is. And some deals can come through overnight. Some sales cycles are super short. But
Yeah.
especially when you're going after enterprise accounts, it really is a longer cycle. So we need to keep our eye on the prize and consider the long game.
Mhm.
So you did this for me, but I'm curious what else you would do for people who are just not ready to buy today.
It's like the funnel of the 100th percentile, how hard it is to get people to get lower and lower and lower in terms of entering into that very gracious, unique space where you're actually within striking distance of potentially working with somebody. Like it's a long vetted process to do that. My process has always been that when I go into these discovery calls with people, small, medium, large size brand, regardless, it's my job for that 30 to 45 to 60 minutes to play A plus or A minus ball on my worst or best day. And it's to give these people that have given you their time the ability to walk them through why they gave you some of their time. Why does it make sense for our companies to talk about it? And what some of the solutions you can provide that again within the first 5 minutes you always get asked, what's your value proposition and why should we care? Totally justified. The long game to me is never nuking or destroying a relationship for short term gain. You have to see the forest for the trees. You have to see the bigger picture. One of my favorite quotes is I believe Chime CMO has said, it's never been a better time to be a marketer. I don't disagree. But at the same time, from a sales perspective in the ad industry, it's never been a more difficult time to be a marketer because of the amount of things and the amount of partners that somebody can work with now. And so I think you have to see the long term picture. If somebody gives you the time to meet with you right now, and it happens all the time, I've had it happen for the last 10 years of people that may not work with me now. But when I get off that meeting and we get told that it's not a go for this time or as of right now, it's never a no forever. That's one of the most valuable lessons I've learned in my career is that these people, if you do your job the right way and you're valuable and you're knowledgeable and you can help these people solve a problem and you leave an impression with that person, no pun intended, uh, you ultimately can end up working with these people down the road because they trust you. And that's what this is all about to me. It's the trust game. And that's me. That's just seeing the long term picture for some of these.
You had said something to me. I'm a chess player. I think our audience would like to hear that. Do you recall what you said about that you could
Yeah, I
share?
do. A good mentor of mine, his name was Koo Williams. He used to be the head of CS at Pandora back when I was there in 2018 through 2020. When I was young in my career, he was the first person that ever walked me into the phrase chess, not checkers. And that's what it is. It's like we're in an industry full of people that make checkers plays every single day, and we're in an industry of people that see the long term and see the chess play. To me, that is the coined phrase that I use, but I'm going to give Koo credit because that came from him and I've just always loved it. I've always used it and I use it sometimes in client setting for the people just to let them know that they can feel like they can let their hair down and know that they're not going to get sold as if I'm selling them a Honda for the next 30 to 3 hours, however long we have our time together.
For sure. I love that. I've never heard that before. So I think that's something super unique. I am all about proof points, and you've given a lot of proof points today. And I know you have one specific moment. It was at the Vegas conference that you were recently at, where all of the things that you were talking about really showed up to prove that they worked. Do you want to tell our audience what happened there?
Yeah, I had a gentleman that had come by our booth at the conference that I was very excited to get the chance to talk to that was in the gambling and the lotto and the daily fantasy sports space. And it was a pretty unique moment. It was about Thursday afternoon. We'd all been at the conference, been exhausted in Vegas for 4 days. It's already long enough, let's all be honest. And within the first 10 minutes, what I thought was very interesting was we had just gotten to know each other personally for 10 minutes, just to ask him how the conference was, how he's been doing outside of work, stuff like that. And to get a very unique moment, said to me, you're the first person all week that's wanted to talk about life for 10 minutes. That's crazy. I think that when you reach out, that's one of the best parts or one of my favorite parts about what you've done with your podcast and what you've named it as Humanized. Because you and I spent so much time talking about this when we first connected about this a couple weeks ago. We've got to go back to that. What we do is not rocket science. I know the running joke in the ad industry is we're not curing cancer. We're really not. And I think when somebody gives you their time, people aren't an item. Just get to know somebody personally. At the end of the day, we spend more time working during the week than we do at home with our families. I think that when somebody gives you their time and you should spend it being equipped to be able to just be a person. You can have a hybrid model between being a consultation or being a sales rep and just getting to know people personally. At the end of the day, people want to work with people that they like. And I think that like that's never been more
Yeah.
true.
This has been really great, and I just especially am obsessed with your framework. I am going to use it myself. And I want to make sure that our audience knows too where to find you and what your
Yeah.
company does and exactly what you're selling.
Yeah, for sure. So I work at Jamp under the Apple Group. I've been tasked and grateful that I've been hired to help join our growing North American team. What we do on our end is we are a programmatic tech platform that specializes in working with consumer app brands across iOS and Android and CTV user acquisition. The company's done a phenomenal job for the last 10 years since Apple has acquired Jamp to build a really unique, awesome amount of supply partners to give us very cost efficient, performance rated dynamic CPMs to be able to efficiently help people measure, track, and always do always on incrementality measurement to show that our platform is driving incremental app installs for you as a brand. So that's what I do right now, and we're enjoying it.
Uh, Amazing. I'm going to drop your LinkedIn in the show notes so people could find you. And you and I are going to have to chat about the CTV stuff because hopefully I'll be able to be a client of yours. Really appreciate it.